I'm not sure where to start today. It's October 9th, Monday, 2023, and something incredible happened over the weekend. Um, I was hoping to come in here and talk about something as ridiculous as the fact that Kevin McCarthy was ousted as Speaker for the first time in American history. But that seems kind of not that important this morning. I am not like some who are very bloodthirsty today and calling for revenge. I don't think revenge in foreign policy is a good idea. I believe in justice. I believe in that very much. And that was a lesson that I watched and hoped that the world had learned from September 11th, 2001. Because the United States decided that justice wasn't enough. The United States decided revenge was what was necessary. I don't know how anybody can consider what we did after 9/11 a success or justified or good in any way. We were not a force for good. I don't see it that way. We killed thousands. We displaced millions. We poisoned millions. We destroyed the infrastructure of an entire nation. We helped create more of what we were trying to destroy. That seems to be the lesson that the United States just can't seem to learn. That every time we go out with vengeance, with force, that we just perpetuate this cycle. So, over the weekend, terrorist group Hamas decided they've had enough with Israeli occupation of Palestine and decided to strike. It was a strike with backup plans to go to full-on war mode afterwards. If I had to guess, I would say they struck and then played wait and see what Israel was going to do. And Israel, I believe, played directly into their hands by declaring war on a terrorist group. I am not condoning terrorism. It doesn't serve its purpose. I mean, if you're going to go ahead and call yourself a freedom fighter or whatever, you should be fighting your enemies, not civilians. That's not correct. And I am not justifying the Israeli response to it either, because they are seeking revenge. They are not seeking justice. Justice would be, this is a police action. We're going to use our vaulted intelligence agency that completely and totally failed us this weekend and to go take care of this situation the way we should have. They should have seen what happened. Oh, America tried the whole let's go to war with terrorism thing, and it just turned into a 20-year quagmire that basically destroyed a generation of Americans in one way or another. So I don't think Israel should be doing this. I don't think Israel should be doing any of this. I mean, it's no secret if you've listened that I do not have a lot of love in my heart for most of America's so called allies. Saudi Arabia, Israel. I mean, if you ask me, they're two sides of the same coin. They both oppress minorities within their borders. They both refuse freedom of speech or all kinds of. It's just ridiculous. It really is. The people of Palestine have been under military blockade for over 15 years. They do not have freedom of movement. So I thought it was especially ridiculous when American generals were going on TV. Well, former American generals, this is the nice gig they get now. You were a general, now you get to be on television as an expert. Expert my ass. They're saying, well, the free Palestinian, the Palestinian civilians just need to get the hell out of Gaza because Israel's not going to do this. Now, I have a lot of problems with that statement. We'll start with the first one. So we're so worried about civilians that we're telling them, you just have to get out of Gaza because Israel's coming for it. Like, first off, that's a problem. That's an Israel problem. Israel should not be striking an entire region to go after these people. They do not use a scalpel. If everyone in the entire community is worried about the entire area of Gaza, you've got a problem. You're not going after terrorists. You are exterminating a people. The next problem I have with this is that these generals go ahead and they say, well, the citizens of Gaza need to get out. Like, no, they can't. What part of blockade do you not understand? They cannot run. They cannot flee. There have been a lot of them that have tried. They can't. This is not a situation where you can say, well, are there any good Palestinians? You know what? As far as the Israeli government is concerned, I have yet to see that. I've seen reports of Israeli protests being able to go through and desecrate mosques and burn down houses and assault Palestinian civilians on the streets. And when the cops show up, they just make things worse by blaming the Palestinians somehow. I have seen police raids of Palestinian homes. The house is destroyed. But then Israeli settlers move in. I mean, I'm sorry. With America's history, with what we did to the Native Americans, with America's ongoing history of what we currently do to African Americans, with how the police state is used to subjugate and control minorities in this country, how can we look at Israel and honestly side with them? Or side with anybody for that matter. If you're worried about siding with terrorists, okay, I get that. Then you should be telling President Biden and all your Democrats who came out this weekend and floated the exact same line of Israel has a right to defend itself. Like, nobody is fucking saying they aren't, or they don't. No one says that. No one. Of all the people, and there were a few small marches occasionally of people with Palestinian flags trying to show their support for the oppressed Palestinian community in Gaza. None of them are saying that Israel should not exist. None of them are saying that Israel does not have a right to defend itself. Nobody says that the people who perpetrated this attack should not be held accountable. These are all make-up bullshit arguments that are being preempted as if it's a real thing. Like, no one legitimate is arguing any of those points. Israel has a right to exist. Israel has a right to defend itself. The people who perpetrated this attack should be held accountable. Those are all true statements that any rational human being on this earth should have. If you cross that line, if you say that the terrorists who committed this attack should not be held accountable, I disagree with you, and I don't think you're a reasonable, logical, or decent person. If you say Israel does not have a right to exist nor defend itself, I'd say you are not a good person. You shouldn't be in this conversation. You need to just go back into your corner of the interweb and fucking stay there. But they go ahead and they preempt that, and it really drives me crazy. But you should go out and you should tell the president and you should tell your congresspeople, Republican and Democrat, that you don't want unequivocal support for Israel. That leads to problems. Every single time, especially a problematic nation like Israel. Okay? We're not talking about, I don't know, Britain or France, who you could say in the last few decades hasn't had a huge issue with, oppressing minorities, or at least not to the extent of Israel. Israel has recent documented attacks against Palestinian civilians in Gaza for the sole purpose of just getting rid of them so that Israeli settlers can move in. Gaza's beachfront property, baby. Gotta have it. Like, it's that simple. It really is. You don't give somebody like that unequivocal support. I wouldn't give unequivocal support to any of our allies, to be frank, at all. I don't care how great they are when they are emotional in a state like Israel currently is. Like, no, you should not support them 100%. It was a mistake, and I'm pretty sure Great Britain would agree. It was a mistake for their prime minister to unequivocally support the Bush administration after 9/11. That was a fuck up. Every country that signed on and just said, yeah, it's okay that America's doing this, because they were attacked, so they get a free pass. They can go fuck up the Middle East some more. That's okay. They just working through some things. No, that's not what should have happened. Our allies, NATO, our friends should have been the first ones to come up to us and seriously looked Bush in the eye and been like, motherfucker, are you okay? Like, we know you were just attacked, but like, are you okay? Because, wow. No. They gave us a pass. And what did we do with that? We felt emboldened by it. We sat here like, yeah, we can fucking do whatever we want. Remember this song? We'll put a boot up your ass because it's the American way. Like, America got a massive boner off of 9/11, like a huge rage boner. We were out there. We were there to fuck the world and anyone who questioned us. It was so bad, even Putin was like, fuck it, man, I will help you guys. Like, that is not the world you want to live in. It made us all feel great for a little bit. But what did we do with that? We felt like there were no checks, there were no balances. And like any system, when you give somebody total, complete power with absolutely no checks against it, what do? Every single time, historically, they go overboard. Every time. Every single time. You do not give absolute power to anyone. That's ridiculous. Yet we are currently doing that with Israel. Every politician I have seen so far, with the exception of very few, mostly members of the squad, Cori Bush, I think, caught some flack for suggesting we shouldn't be giving military aid to Israel right now. Like, yeah, we shouldn't. They're killing civilians with it right now. I think a lot of the problem with this is that I have an overabundance of empathy for human beings. Seriously, I don't know. I look at history, I see what's going on with my own eyes, and I am straight white male in America. I have nothing to fear, yet I do understand that if I do not stand up for those who are being oppressed here in the United States, it won't be long before they come after me. I am not Christian. I am borderline atheist. I speak my mind. I don't give a fuck. I love the freedom of speech. Okay? I criticize the government. I criticize the president. I don't care who it is. I do not cheerlead for any particular party, even the ones I'm a member of. Okay? I am a dues-paying member of the DSA here in the United States. They fuck up sometimes. That's okay. It is okay for the membership to question that and say it. But I do understand that if, in my wildest dreams, the DSA had complete and total control of this government, that would be a bad thing. You do not want one power, one entity, one club to be in charge of everything with no checks, with no way to remove them, with no way to backpedal. Like, seriously, if Netanyahu over in Israel just decides this is his golden opportunity to eradicate Gaza of all of the Palestinians, let's say he does that, which is inside of his wheelhouse. Like, that's not a stretch to suggest that. That is a very real thing that could happen here, okay? This isn't some normal guy thrust into a horrible situation. This is an asshole who's been asking for this forever. Okay, I guarantee you, a little tiny piece of him, once he found out that he wasn't in direct, the direct path of these attacks was like, yes, because now he gets to do what he wanted to do. A complete and total military action in Gaza. He gets to declare war on a terrorist group and just kill whoever the fuck he wants, and everyone is falling in line behind him, and I think that is wrong. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist who suggests that, he had anything to do with it. I'm not one of those. Bush did not help with 9/11. FDR did not let Pearl Harbor happen. The Kennedy assassination... Okay, sure, Oswald, even though, yeah, sure, there are questions, and I think it's shady as fuck that all the documents haven't been released, but whatever, we'll find out one day. I don't buy into conspiracy theories, but let's not suggest that this is not something that he kind of wanted. Right? This falls perfectly for him. He gets to send out the war jockeys. He gets to unify his country. Just a few weeks ago, just recently, he has been under fire because the judiciary is coming after his ass because he is a corrupt motherfucker. And he wanted to change Israel's constitution so that he could get rid of that problem, so that he could consolidate more power. And the country was against him. There were videos of hundreds of thousands of Israelis marching in the streets saying, Netanyahu is a dictator wannabe asshole. No, you can't just do this. There won't be protests today over that. The military members in Israel were against Netanyahu on Thursday. 100%, almost 100%. It was pretty damn unanimous. The military was not happy with him. They were willing to just say, seriously, there were reports of military high-ranking generals in Israel saying, you know what, if Netanyahu gets his way, we might disobey his orders. That's not happening now. Really, you couldn't have scripted a better outcome for Benjamin Netanyahu, and yet still, no, I don't buy that this is a conspiracy. This is not anything. There's a lot of things that happened. This is a human system that screwed up, and more likely than not, it was just that Netanyahu, kind of like what Trump did over here, where he started purging his own intelligence state to give him the results he wanted rather than fill it with experts who gave him the truth. It's highly likely that's what caused a lot of this problem. That's why their vaulted intelligence agency didn't come up with anything. But I really do think a lot of Americans are extremely privileged, and I think you can see that. The more privileged you are, the more likely you are to take to social media over this weekend and be like, yeah, fuck Israel. I saw some guys I would have considered allies in the fight against Trumpism here in the United States literally say that Israel's justified in wiping out all of the Palestinians in Gaza because they are surrounded by a sea of Islamic terror. And I'm just like, dude, you can't. No. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, and from what I can see, Islam does not hold the monopoly on terror. I am not Bill Maher or any of his, anti-Islamic bullshit. Okay? The Christians over here in the United States are just as capable of blowing themselves up and being terrorist cells as any other religion on the planet. Just because we don't have it to the same degree just means we're in different cycles, right? There are ebbs and flows to everything. Right now, yeah, the Islamic community has a bit of a terrorism problem. But guess what? Every religious community does, and it's all to degrees. But it's okay for them to say that right now. The more privileged you are here in the United States, the more you can safely from your couch go ahead and say, yeah, kill them all. Yeah, revenge. Revenge. That's all this is. You can declare war on a terrorist cell. That always fucking works. But I do have to ask, Americans, we live in privilege, so it's difficult. So I'm going to ask you to use your imaginations and try to have empathy for 5 seconds here. And really just imagine, you have to live under blockade for 15 years. You do not have the ability to trade with anyone. Okay? You don't get the new iPhone. You don't get any new products. You cannot build up your own infrastructure because the people blockading you keep blowing it the fuck up. You don't have access to electricity. You do not have access to the best healthcare. You do not have access to clean water daily. This is an issue for you. You wake up in the morning and you have to find out, where do I get clean water, food, and warmth from? Like, that is a legit thing that every single Palestinian living in Gaza has to wake up and think about every day. And yet we sit here and say, no, they don't have a right to defend themselves. Where's that right? And again, I'm not suggesting terrorism is the way. Honestly, I mean, it's a stupid way to do it, but I guess the rules by today's standards is you have to build your own army and declare war officially, and then everybody's okay with it, because then it's not terrorism, right? But yeah, Palestine should have organized their own military and targeted military institutions. The only problem, and I think people don't realize this, every single member of Israel is by law required to be members of the military. So when the media portrays it as civilians being targeted, I do think it is important to note that every single one of them has served in the military and will serve again in the military. I mean, I wasn't shocked by this attack because I do pay attention to these things. And I'm sitting here and I'm honestly, there are times I wait for it here in the United States. How many times do you have to see a video of a police officer shooting a black man in the back or shooting an unarmed black person with their hands up before you sit there and you wonder, you know, when are they going to fight back? Because it is only a matter of time. I mean, if nothing changes, if cops keep acting the way they do, if the system keeps oppressing a certain people, eventually there is a breaking point, right? You would think that there will be a moment where it's just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So with that on my mind, I do look over there and I always wonder, I'm like, you know, I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner. That was the surprise to me. It wasn't that it happened. I've been expecting something like this. Honestly, if you've been paying attention to any of the situations going on over there, all of us should have just been like, you know, it's only a matter of time. It really is. Because the situation's not improving. Israel just reelected Netanyahu. This guy has stated multiple times his goals for what he wants to do with Gaza. Like this is not a dream world we're living in. Anyway, the next thing I want to talk about, though, is the stupidity over here in the United States via everyone's, the universally recognized stupidest senator, Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, went ahead and put out, because it was a huge note, that there's several hundred military officers who are currently not where they're supposed to be, and we also do not have an ambassador to Israel right now, which would be good to have, because of Tommy Tuberville's protest against the United States military giving women time off for having abortions if they choose to do so. Never mind the fact that the number of women who are having voluntary, and I'll explain that in a minute, but voluntary abortions is in the single digits per year. He's gone ahead and included women who have had pretty much any kind of procedure for, stillborn babies, for, risk to life of the mother, any kind of exceptions, rape, incest, those kinds of things. The baby's not viable kind of a deal. And, you don't want to force a woman to carry it to term, because that's several months of hell, knowing that you're just carrying a baby to die as soon as it's out. Like, what the fuck, right? That's what he's enforcing. So anyway, because there's now a massive situation in the Middle East that could massively escalate and spiral out of control, he did receive questions, and his office, I will say it was not him directly, but his office is staunchly defending him and saying that he does not plan to reverse his actions until the abortion things are met. This is insanity. This is precisely what everyone was fearing. Okay, 9/11, the 9/11 Commission, which was a commission formed after the attacks to investigate, what led up to them and everything, cited in their report that the delay in turnover from Clinton to Bush due to the questionable results of the 2000 election, they delayed the turnover. Normally the turnover starts pretty much as soon as a victor is declared, November 10th at the latest, right? And you have a transition team and they get in there and they do all the stuff, and you have all the experts like lining up with each other and talking about what's going on in the world, getting people up to speed. And there have been some people saying that even that's not long enough, that you need to elongate that period. Maybe we should, not have... we should have the election sooner, so that way the transition team does have time to do their job and really get in there good. But anyway, the 9/11 Commission went ahead and said that one of the factors leading into 9/11 was the transition being delayed by a couple weeks while we sorted out, Bush v. Gore. So it is not lost on people who understand that and who know that, who saw what was going on. First off, it was rightly pointed out that Trump was endangering the country by refusing to do a transition with Biden. There was no transition. Biden just had to come in day one, and so did his entire staff, and just have to pick up what was left. So that put the United States in danger. The second thing was this Tuberville thing. A lot of people were pointing out, there are military officers who need to be where they are. By law, you can't just have a general or anyone sit where they are and just continue to do the job. That is Tuberville's mistake. He has openly expressed that on camera into a microphone, saying that, well, I don't see why the Joint Chiefs just can't stay there and finish the job. And it's like, by law, he can't. It's a law, right? Because you don't want a general staying in their position for perpetuity. All right? You don't want them there forever. That's bad. Remember that whole don't give unlimited power to somebody thing? You don't want a general to just be able to sit there forever. And also, you wouldn't want, hypothetically, the general you had in charge was a raging lunatic nutbag, and one senator likes him, and he knows that this raging lunatic nutbag is going to be replaced by somebody sane. And they don't want that. So Tuberville holds up the promotion, and then that general just gets to sit in that position. And it doesn't even have to be a one senator versus the rest. What if Mitch McConnell doesn't like the Democratic president's choices for military appointments? He could hold up the appointments, and the military personnel who are in charge would just have to stay in charge. So there's a law, there's a reason why this is happening. These people have no choice but to retire. They have to cease acting upon a certain date. And if they don't have a relief, tough shit. And the president cannot appoint, unlike his cabinet where you saw Trump doing the acting attorney general bullshit. You can't have an acting general. That does not work, okay? When the general vacates his office, the staff just have to figure out what the fuck to do. Okay, so this is completely ridiculous, and this is emphasizing it again because there is no direct correlation to what's going on in Israel. This is just one of those moments where it's like, dude, there are officers, some of them who would be working over with the current military battle group heading over to the Middle East right now, who aren't there, who would be there if not for Tuberville being an idiot. Okay, this is screwing up military readiness and preparedness. So if you do believe in strong national security, if you do want a strong military, you need to get on the horn to Tommy Tuberville and be like, what the fuck are you doing? You are an idiot. You are stupid. This has to stop. Tuberville always gets me up for that. Anyway, the last thing I want to point out is I want you to pay attention to the videos. Okay. This is a conventional war. This is not nuclear. This is also a mix of conventional and unconventional guerrilla warfare, terrorist, however you want to describe it. So we're seeing videos of civilians being kidnapped, civilians being targeted and killed. We are seeing videos of whole buildings being reduced to rubble thanks to military-grade munitions. And we're getting it all in front row. Now, the media here is extremely biased in favor of Israel, but I want you to ignore who it's happening to and just focus on what's happening, because there is a segment of the United States population that wants that here in America. They are clamoring for it. There is a segment of the population that thinks we need a second American Civil War. There are politicians who openly call for a national divorce to separate the blue states from the red states. That might work in their tiny little pea brains. That's not how reality works, and I don't think that would work. Even if, hypothetically, we had a national divorce, I do not think it would be good enough for the red states. You can see that now. Roe v. Wade threw it back to the states as a way to simplify things. Whatever, SCOTUS are stupid. Okay, fine. But what immediately became the objective? Did it become, okay, we're going to make Alabama just really anti-abortion and woohoo? No. States are going above and beyond. You have politicians saying that now the goal is a national, federal ban to all 50 states and territories. And you have states like Texas openly trying to prosecute its own citizens for leaving the state to have one. So I do not think this national divorce idea would work. I don't think it's good enough for them. There are people who are really itching for fucking war, and I keep sitting here like, you assholes do not know what that's really like. You don't. You don't. Most of these people have never served. Most of these people, even if they did serve, did not serve in an active war zone. They do not know what they are talking about. This is not a simple solution. The Civil War is still felt to this day. It is not the cosplay bullshit we do. A modern day civil war in the United States would be horrific. You would see kidnappings. You would see torture. You would see targeted strikes against civilians at music festivals, at movie theaters. Fuck, we already have that and we're not at civil war. Go ask the people that were machine gunned down in Las Vegas a few years ago how they feel about things. As far as they're concerned, we're already there. We have seen the government, especially around the time of when Trump did that stupid, gassing the protesters so he could go stand in front of a church and hold a Bible upside down thing. And during the inauguration or during January 6th, there were armed groups, men, non-uniform. They were just wearing all black and helmets and everything. And they were just going around in vans, scooping up protesters. Like this is documented. This happened here in the United States, in D.C. Okay, so it's not a stretch to see that happening nationwide. This is what could very well happen. If you really did declare civil war, if you got a second civil war, your electricity might stop working. What do you think the first things to be attacked would be? It would be infrastructure. You think you've got problems with protesters in the streets now? Wait until you're under civil war and the potholes are so big you can't drive around them. Wait until you're in a civil war and your water doesn't turn on. You have no water pressure in your house and the electricity doesn't turn on. And all of a sudden, one of those great summers flies into the American South and cooks us all at 110, 120 degrees. And your AC is just like, fuck it. I don't work anymore because somebody turned off the electricity. It's not going to be what you think it is. This is what a civil war in America would look like. It would be a combination of military attacks and guerrilla tactics. There would be kidnappings. There would be terrorism. There would be everything. And the terrorists are not going to call themselves terrorists. They're going to say they're freedom fighters. They're going to say they're the rebels. They're on the right cause of they're for the right cause of history, right? I guarantee you that's how the Palestinians think of themselves this week. The heroes. Because we're all heroes of our own story. We can all objectively look from the outside and be like, yeah, terrorism's evil, you shouldn't fucking do it. But from their point of view, nobody goes into terrorism because they think it's a noble cause, right? Like, that is a final solution. That's because they think they've been put into an environment. Yeah, some of them have been brainwashed. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that happens. They do find young youth, male youth that is, kind of lost, and they direct them in the direction of being a terrorist. So they are recruited. They do that. Yeah. These idiots. It's a cautionary tale. We don't want this happening over here in the United States, right? Like, I'm the first to acknowledge it. Unfortunately, when it comes to Nazis, history's only given us one solution to take care of Nazis, and it's extremely violent and bloody, and I would rather not. I'm really hoping somebody figures out a way to de-Nazi the United States before it comes to that point. But this is what an American Civil War would look like. There would be a lot of people, and I guarantee you, anyone who survives to make it to the back end of that Civil War will tell you it was not fucking worth it. Go read some letters from the Civil War, from the first American Civil War. All those wonderful Civil War letters. And find yourself a few of the families that lived through the whole thing that made it to the end. And you'll see at the beginning, they were gung-ho for it. They were like, fuck yeah, bring it, you stupid Yanks. Like, they were really, woo, our cause is right and we are just, yes! They were all about it. 4 years later, after they'd lost, almost every single one of those people who were writing letters was like, this was not worth it. We lost so much. This was not worth it. We should not have fought over this. And I think that part of the Civil War is the part that really needs to be taught. The end. How it ended. The destruction caused. Was it worth it? Because none of them think it was. Anyway, that's today's show. Hopefully we'll have better news tomorrow to talk about. In the meantime, please stay safe, get vaccinated. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is to like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. You can always email me directly at recoveryfrompolitics@gmail.com. I can also be found on Facebook, Threads, and most social media sites except the site formerly known as Twitter. That's a Nazi site, and you will not see me on it anymore. Your support is crucial as this show is not monetized. It is a one-man show using free software on his free time, so your reviews mean a lot. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.